Welcome. Find yourself a comfortable position. Take a slow breath. Tonight, we journey back to a medieval monastery somewhere in Europe during the 13th century. It is a place of stone walls and quiet corridors, a place where time moves differently, where the loudest sound is often the scratch of a quill against parchment. Our story follows a scribe, not a famous one, not someone whose name you would know, just an ordinary copyist performing his work in the scriptorium day after day, letter after letter. His life is one of routine, of patience, of small, careful movements repeated thousands upon thousands of times. There is nothing exciting about this story, nothing dramatic, and that is exactly what makes it worth exploring as you drift toward sleep. The gentle rhythm of medieval book production, the quiet dedication of men who spent their entire lives copying words they sometimes could not fully read, in languages they sometimes barely understood. Let us begin in the early morning hours, before the sun has risen. The monastery is dark, cold, silent except for the distant sound of wind moving through the cloisters. The scribe wakes to the sound of a bell. It is still dark outside. The narrow window near his sleeping pallet shows nothing but blackness, perhaps a few stars if the night is clear, but mostly just darkness. He shares this dormitory with 24 other monks. Each has a simple wooden bed, a thin mattress stuffed with straw, a rough woolen blanket, nothing more. The room is cold. In winter, it is very cold. Cold enough to see your breath in the darkness. He sits up slowly. His body is stiff from sleep. He is not a young man, perhaps 40 years old, perhaps older. It is difficult to say. Life in the monastery ages people, but also preserves them in certain ways. He has never been ill, never been injured in battle, never starved, but he has also never been particularly comfortable. He pulls on his robe, the same brown robe he wears every day. It is made of wool, rough wool that scratches against the skin at first, though you grow accustomed to it over the years. The robe is cold from hanging on its peg all night. He wraps it around himself and secures it with a simple rope belt. Around him, other monks are doing the same thing, rising in silence, dressing in the darkness. No one speaks. The rule of silence is maintained, as it is maintained through most of the day. There is no need for words at this hour. He slips his feet into leather shoes. They are worn but serviceable. He has had them for 3 years. Before that, he had another pair for 5 years. Before that, another pair. The monastery makes its own shoes. There is a brother whose entire purpose is to repair and make shoes. That is what he does, all day, every day. Just as our scribe copies manuscripts, just as the baker bakes bread, just as the gardener tends the vegetables. Everyone has their purpose, their routine, their small corner of the great rhythm that keeps the monastery functioning. The bell rings again. It is time for matins, the first prayer service of the day. It is still perhaps 2 hours before dawn. The monks file out of the dormitory in a quiet line. They move through the stone corridors like shadows. Their footsteps make soft sounds against the floor, scraping, shuffling, but no one speaks. The church is even colder than the dormitory. Stone seems to hold the cold, to breathe it out into the space. The scribe takes his place in the choir stalls. Around him, other monks do the same. They stand, they sit, they kneel, they chant. The Latin words wash over the space in a gentle, droning rhythm. The scribe knows these prayers by heart. He has said them thousands of times, every day of his adult life. The words come automatically. His lips move. His voice joins the others in a low murmur, but his mind is already thinking about the work ahead. Today he will continue copying a gospel. He is working on the Gospel of Luke. He has been working on it for 6 weeks. Perhaps he is halfway finished. It is difficult to know exactly. He does not measure his progress by the day. He measures it by the page, by the column, by the line. When you are copying an entire gospel, you do not think about finishing. You think about the next word, the next letter, the next careful stroke of the pen. Matins ends. The monks file out again in silence. Some return to the dormitory for another brief period of sleep, but not the scribe. He has work to do. He makes his way through the dark corridors toward the scriptorium. The sky is beginning to lighten now. Not true dawn, just that faint suggestion of grey that comes before dawn. The scribe unlocks the heavy wooden door of the scriptorium and steps inside. The scriptorium is a long room with windows on one side. High windows, designed to let in light without letting in too much heat or too much cold. The room is lined with wooden desks. Each desk has a slanted surface, a place to rest the manuscript, a place to hold the inkwell, a place for supplies. The scribe's desk is near the middle window. Not the best position, not the worst. The best position is reserved for the illuminator. The brother who paints the decorative letters and margins. He needs the most light, the most consistent light. Our scribe needs light too, of course, but his work is simpler. Just letters, just words. Black ink on pale parchment, line after line after line. The scribe lights a candle. Dawn is coming, but it has not arrived yet. He will need the candle for perhaps another hour. He sets it carefully in its holder, away from the manuscripts, away from anything that could catch fire. Fire is one of the great terrors of a scriptorium. All that work, all those hours, all those books, they could all burn in minutes. He unwraps his manuscript. It was left carefully covered when he stopped work yesterday. Parchment is valuable. It must be protected from dust, from moisture, from the oils of careless hands. The manuscript is made of vellum. Vellum is prepared animal skin, usually calf skin, sometimes sheepskin. It is cleaned, stretched, scraped thin, and cut into sheets. Each sheet is precious. A single Bible might require the skins of 300 animals, 300 calves or sheep, all raised, slaughtered, and carefully processed just to create the surface on which words can be written. The scribe does not think about this often. It is simply the material of his work. Like the carpenter works with wood and the blacksmith works with iron, the scribe works with vellum and ink. He examines the page where he stopped yesterday, the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verse 12. Et factum est cum esset in una civitatem. And it came to pass, when he was in a certain city, he has copied up to the word civitatem. Today he will continue. He will copy as much as the light allows, as much as his eyes can manage, as much as his hand can endure, but first he must prepare his ink. Ink is not something you take for granted in a medieval monastery. It is made fresh, regularly. It can be made in large batches, but it does not last forever. It thickens, it dries out, it grows mould if kept too long in damp conditions. The scribe keeps a small pot of ink at his desk. It is a ceramic pot glazed on the inside. The ink inside is black, very black, made from oak galls, iron sulfate, and gum arabic mixed with water. The recipe has been the same for centuries. It will remain the same for centuries more. He dips a thin wooden stick into the ink and stirs it gently. The consistency is important. Too thick, and the ink will not flow from the quill. Too thin, and it will bleed through the vellum or spread beyond the careful strokes of the letters. The ink seems good. He has stirred it. Now he must test it. He takes a small scrap of vellum. Vellum is too precious to waste, so these scraps are saved. The trimmed edges, the imperfect pieces, they are used for testing ink, for practicing difficult letters, for working out the spacing of a particularly complex word. He dips his quill. The quill is a goose feather. The shaft is hollow. The tip has been carefully cut at an angle with a small knife. This creates a nib that holds ink and releases it in a controlled flow, but quills must be recut often. The tip wears down. It splits. It becomes too broad or too narrow. The scribe keeps several prepared quills at his desk. When one becomes unusable, he sets it aside and takes another. Later, perhaps during the afternoon, he will sit and cut fresh nibs. It is tedious work, but necessary. Everything about this work is necessary. Every small preparation, every careful maintenance of tools. He makes a test stroke on the scrap of vellum. The ink flows well, not too fast, not too slow. The color is deep and even. Good, he can begin. The scribe positions himself at his desk. His posture is important. He will sit here for hours. If his posture is wrong, his back will ache, his shoulders will cramp, his neck will stiffen. He has learned over the years how to sit, how to hold himself, how to minimize the discomfort. He places his left hand flat on the page. This steadies the vellum. This keeps it from moving. His right hand holds the quill, lightly, not gripping, just resting the shaft between thumb and fingers. The motion of writing must come from the whole arm, not just the fingers, not just the wrist. If you write only with your fingers, your hand will cramp within an hour. He finds his place. Chapter 5, verse 12. The word civitatem was the last word he completed yesterday. Now he continues with the next word, et, and. He touches the quill to the parchment. The motion is slow, deliberate. He forms the letter E. It is a square capital E, in the style he has been trained to use. Then the letter T. The crossbar of the T extends slightly beyond the vertical stroke, not too far, just enough to maintain the proper spacing. Eat. One word complete. He pauses, examines the letters. They are good, even, consistent with the letters that came before. The height is correct, the spacing is correct, the darkness of the ink is correct. He continues, ecce. Behold, 4 letters, slow strokes, careful curves. The first letter, again a capital E, then C, The curve of the C must be smooth, not too open, not too closed, then another C, then another E. Ecce, another word complete. The work continues this way, word by word, letter by letter. There is a rhythm to it, a meditative quality, the scratch of the quill, the slight pause as he dips for more ink, the continuation of the stroke, the completion of the letter, the small space before the next letter begins. Time passes differently in the scriptorium. The scribe is not thinking about time. He is thinking about the next letter, the next word, the small section of text immediately before him. The room is growing brighter. The sun has risen now. Light streams through the high windows. The angle of the light changes slowly throughout the morning. The scribe adjusts his position slightly, turns the manuscript a fraction, moves the candle away. He no longer needs it. The daylight is sufficient. Other monks are entering the scriptorium now. They take their places at their desks. They unwrap their own manuscripts. They prepare their own quills and ink. No one speaks. The rule of silence is maintained here, as everywhere. But there is a sense of companionship, of shared purpose. They are all doing the same work, all serving the same function. The illuminator is setting up his materials. He works at the front desk, nearest the largest window. He has pots of colour, ground minerals mixed with binding agents, azure blue from lapis lazuli, bright red from vermilion, green from malachite, gold leaf so thin you can see through it. His work is more complex than the scribe's work, more varied, but also slower. While the scribe might complete a full page in a day, the illuminator might work for a week on a single decorative initial. But that is not our concern. We are following the scribe, the copyist, the man whose work is to reproduce text, to preserve knowledge, to multiply books so that what exists in one place might exist in many places. He has completed several verses now. His hand is finding its rhythm. The letters flow more smoothly after the first half hour. The muscles of his hand and arm have warmed. The movements have become more automatic. He does not have to think as much about each stroke. His hand knows what to do. This is important, because the work is long. If every letter required full concentration, the scribe would be exhausted within an hour. But because the letters are practiced, because they have been repeated thousands and thousands of times, because his hand knows the movements, the work can continue for hours with a kind of meditative steadiness. The scribe is working on a new sheet now. He has completed the previous sheet. It lies to the side, the ink still drying. He must not touch it. Not yet. Ink takes time to dry. If you touch it too soon, you will smudge the letters, ruin the work. This new sheet of vellum is slightly different from the last. Vellum is a natural material. Every piece is unique. This piece has a small imperfection near the bottom, a place where the skin was scarred. Perhaps the calf rubbed against something rough. Perhaps there was an insect bite. The imperfection was mostly removed when the skin was scraped and prepared, but a faint mark remains. A slight discoloration, a small rough patch. The scribe notes this. He will adjust his work to avoid that area. He will place his text so that the imperfection falls in a margin, or perhaps between columns, or perhaps, if necessary, he will leave that section blank and continue the text on the next sheet. It is not ideal, but it is necessary. You cannot write on a damaged surface. The ink will not flow properly. The letters will be uneven. He begins copying on the new sheet. The text continues. Chapter 5 of Luke, verse 15, verse 16, verse 17. The scribe does not read what he is copying. Not really. He is reading words, but he is not absorbing the meaning. His mind is focused on the shapes, the letters, the accuracy of his reproduction. He knows these are holy words, words from the gospel, words that matter. But in this moment they are not words, they are patterns to be copied, lines and curves to be reproduced with perfect fidelity. This is important to understand. The scribe may not even fully understand Latin. Many scribes do not. They are trained to recognize letters, to reproduce shapes, but not necessarily to comprehend meaning. The comprehension is not their job. Their job is accuracy, fidelity, the perfect transmission of what exists in the exemplar to what will exist in the copy. The exemplar sits on a small stand to the left of his work surface. It is the book he is copying from. It is itself a copy, made perhaps 50 years ago, perhaps 100 years ago, by another scribe, in another monastery, somewhere else in Europe. And that copy was made from another copy, which was made from another copy, going back and back through the centuries. The scriptorium is quiet, but it is not silent. There are sounds, small sounds, the sounds of work, the scratch of quills against vellum, dozens of quills, all making small scratching sounds. Sometimes they are synchronized, sometimes not. The sound rises and falls like distant rain on a roof, the occasional scrape of a chair against the floor, a monk adjusting his position, trying to ease the stiffness in his back, the soft thump of a book being carefully closed or carefully opened, the creak of leather bindings, a small cough quickly stifled. Someone has breathed in dust, or his throat is dry. He coughs once, then returns to silence. The whisper of pages turning, very carefully. You do not turn pages roughly. You turn them with respect, with gentle pressure, supporting the spine of the book, not creasing the corners. These sounds continue throughout the morning. They are the sounds of focused work, of concentration, of many people performing the same type of task in the same space. It is soothing in its way. The knowledge that you are not alone, that others are doing what you are doing, all working toward the same goal. The preservation of knowledge, the multiplication of texts, the slow, patient building of a library that will outlast any individual life. The bell rings. It is the third hour of the day. Time for terce, the third prayer service. The scribe sets down his quill. He carefully covers his work, places a clean cloth over the manuscript to protect it from dust. He stands. His back cracks slightly. His legs are stiff. He has been sitting for more than 2 hours without moving. All the monks in the scriptorium stand. They file out, silently, in order, making their way to the church. Terce is brief, perhaps 20 minutes. The monks stand in their places. They chant, they pray. The words are familiar, comforting in their repetition. The scribe's mind drifts a little. He is thinking about the work, about how many more verses he might complete today, about whether he has enough ink prepared, about whether he should cut new quills during the afternoon break. But he brings his attention back to the prayers. It is important to be present, to focus, to give this time to God. That is the purpose of everything here. Everything serves the purpose of prayer, even the copying of manuscripts. It is a form of prayer, a way of serving, a way of preserving God's word. The service ends. The monks file out. Some return to the scriptorium, some go to other work. There are gardens to tend, bread to bake, animals to care for, wood to chop, repairs to make. The monastery is self-sufficient. Everything needed for daily life is produced here, by the monks themselves. But the scribe returns to the scriptorium. This is his work. This is what he does. He takes his place at his desk, uncovers his manuscript, examines where he stopped, takes up his quill, dips it in ink, continues. The afternoon light is different from the morning light. The sun moves across the sky. The angle changes. The quality changes. The light becomes warmer, more golden. In summer it can be quite bright, almost too bright. The scribe sometimes hangs a piece of cloth near the window to diffuse the light, to soften it. Today the light is acceptable, good for work. He continues copying, but he is becoming tired now. He has been working for many hours. His hand is beginning to cramp. His eyes are beginning to strain. The letters are starting to blur slightly. This is normal, expected. The scribe knows his limits. He knows how long he can work before the quality of his work begins to suffer. And quality is everything. An inaccurate copy is worse than no copy at all. It is worse than useless. It is dangerous. It spreads error. It corrupts the text. So when the scribe feels his concentration waning, he stops. He does not push through fatigue. He sets down his quill, he stands, he stretches. He walks slowly around the scriptorium, just a brief walk, to the window, to the back of the room, returning to his desk. He sits again, takes up his quill, but now he works more slowly, more carefully, checking each letter, each word, comparing more frequently with the exemplar, making sure he has not made an error. Errors happen. Even the most careful scribe makes errors. A letter skipped, a word repeated, a line omitted. When an error is discovered, it must be corrected. This is delicate work. The ink cannot simply be erased. Vellum does not erase cleanly. Instead, the error must be carefully scraped away with a knife. The surface must be smoothed again. Then the correct letter or word can be written in the same space. The scribe is fortunate today. He has made no errors, or none that he has noticed, but the day is not over. There are still hours of work ahead. The bell rings for none. The 9th hour, time for prayer, time for the midday meal. The scribe covers his work again, carefully, always carefully. He stands, joins the line of monks leaving the scriptorium. They make their way to the church for none, then to the refectory for the meal. The refectory is a long hall with tables and benches. The monks sit in their assigned places. There is a precise order, a hierarchy. The abbot sits at the head, the prior beside him, the senior monks nearest the head, the junior monks farther away. The scribe sits somewhere in the middle, neither particularly important nor particularly unimportant. The meal is simple. Bread, cheese, a bowl of soup, watered wine. The food is plain but sufficient. No one is hungry. No one is overfed. Everything is moderate, balanced. During the meal, one monk stands at a lectern and reads aloud. Scripture. Or perhaps the rule of Saint Benedict, or perhaps a sermon. The monks eat in silence, listening, chewing slowly. There is no rush, but also no lingering. The meal has a set duration. When it is finished, the monks rise. They clean their bowls, they leave the refectory. Some have a brief period of rest, but not the scribe. He has too much work. He returns to the scriptorium. The afternoon is the most productive time. The best light, the freshest energy. He must use these hours well. The scribe settles back into his work. His hand is rested from the meal, his eyes are refreshed. He can work more steadily now, more quickly. He has found a good pace, a sustainable pace. He is copying verse after verse, the Gospel of Luke. Chapter 5 is nearly complete. Soon he will begin chapter 6. He knows the text is approaching a section with a long genealogy, lists of names, father of father of father. These are challenging to copy, many names, many unfamiliar names, easy to make errors, but he does not worry about that yet. He focuses on the present verse, the present word, the present letter. The room around him is productive, other scribes working, the illuminator painting, the soft sounds of quills and brushes and pages turning. It is peaceful, purposeful. The scribe's mind settles into a kind of meditation. The work requires attention, but it does not require intense thought. His hand knows what to do, the patterns are automatic. His mind can rest, can drift, can simply be present with the work. This is one of the gifts of this kind of labor. It is repetitive, but the repetition is not boring. It is calming, it is grounding. It connects you to the work, to the tradition, to all the scribes who came before, to all the scribes who will come after. Let us step back for a moment from the immediate work. Let us consider the scribe's life as a whole. What does it mean to be a copyist in a medieval monastery? It means dedicating your life to a single purpose, the preservation and multiplication of texts. You will spend decades, perhaps your entire adult life, copying books. You will copy the Bible. You will copy the church fathers. You will copy histories. You will copy saints' lives. You will copy liturgical texts, books of hours, missals, psalters. You will copy in the same room, at the same desk, with the same tools, day after day, year after year. Your entire life will be contained in this routine. Wake, pray, copy, pray, eat, copy, pray, sleep, then wake and begin again. You will never travel. You will never marry. You will never own property. You will never have children. You will never pursue personal ambitions. All of that has been given up, surrendered in exchange for this life, this work, this purpose. Is it a sacrifice? Perhaps. But the scribe does not think of it that way, or at least he has stopped thinking of it that way. This is simply his life, his vocation, his place in the world, and there is satisfaction in it. The satisfaction of finishing a page, of finishing a book, of knowing that this book will be read, will be studied, will carry knowledge forward into the future, will survive you, will outlast you by centuries. The scribe himself will be forgotten. His name will not be remembered, unless he signs his work, and even then he is just a name, a small note at the end of a manuscript. Finished by Brother Thomas in the year of our Lord, 1285. Nothing more. But the work will remain, the text will remain, the knowledge will remain, and that is what matters, that is the purpose, that is the gift. As the afternoon wears on, maintaining concentration becomes more difficult. The scribe has been working for most of the day. His eyes are tired, his hand is tired, his back aches despite his best efforts at posture. He makes more frequent pauses now, sets down his quill, flexes his fingers, rotates his wrist, looks away from the page to rest his eyes, looks out the window at the distant sky, at the trees beyond the monastery wall, at nothing in particular. Then he returns to the work, picks up his quill, finds his place, continues. The text is becoming more challenging now. He has reached a section with complex phrasing, long sentences, multiple clauses. It is easy to lose track of where you are, easy to skip a word, easy to repeat a phrase. He works more slowly, more deliberately, checking each word against the exemplar, making sure he is maintaining accuracy. This is the true skill of a scribe, not just the ability to form letters. That is basic. That is what every scribe learns in the first weeks of training. The true skill is maintaining accuracy over long hours, over long days, over long weeks and months, never letting fatigue compromise the quality of the work. Some scribes are faster than others, but speed is not the most valued quality. Accuracy is the most valued quality. A fast scribe who makes many errors is not a good scribe. A slow scribe who makes no errors is an excellent scribe. Our scribe is somewhere in the middle. He is neither particularly fast nor particularly slow, but he is accurate, very accurate. He takes pride in this. It is his contribution, his skill, his offering. The bell rings for vespers. The afternoon is ending. The light is beginning to fade. The scribe has completed several more pages today. Good progress. He is pleased. He covers his work. Carefully blots the ink on the most recent lines, makes sure nothing will smudge. Sets his quill aside, cleans the nib briefly with a damp cloth, covers the ink pot. Everything must be left ready for tomorrow, tools maintained, workspace organized, nothing left in disarray. He stands, his back protests. He has been sitting for many hours. He stretches, slowly, carefully, then joins the other monks leaving the scriptorium. Vespers is longer than the earlier services, the evening prayer, the light is fading outside, the church is growing dim, candles are lit, the shadows flicker against the stone walls. The scribe takes his place, stands, sits, kneels, chants, the familiar words, the familiar rhythms. His mind is still partially on the work, on the verses he copied today, on the work that remains. But he tries to be present, to focus on the prayer. The service ends. The monks file out. There is a brief period before the evening meal. Some monks have free time, personal time, time for private prayer or reading or rest. The scribe returns briefly to the scriptorium, not to work, just to check on his manuscript, to make sure everything is secure. The ink is dry now, the pages can be safely stacked. He arranges them carefully, places a weight on top to keep them flat. Vellum can warp if left unsupported, can curl at the edges. Everything is in order. He leaves the scriptorium, makes his way to the cloister, walks slowly around the covered walkway, thinking about nothing in particular, just walking, breathing, feeling his body move after so many hours of sitting. The evening meal is briefer than the midday meal, simpler, perhaps just bread and a piece of fruit, some water or diluted wine, then compline, the final prayer of the day, the last service. The church is very dark now. Full night outside, only candles provide light, the prayers are quieter, softer, preparing the monks for sleep. The scribe is tired, deeply tired, not an unpleasant tiredness, the tiredness that comes from a full day of focused work. His body is ready for rest. Compline ends. The monks leave the church in silence. They return to the dormitory, undress in the darkness, lie down on their simple beds, pull the rough blankets over themselves. The scribe lies on his back. His mind is still active for a few moments, still thinking about the work, about tomorrow, about the verses that remain to be copied, about the long weeks still ahead before this gospel will be finished. But gradually his mind quiets. The thoughts slow, fade. He drifts towards sleep. His breathing deepens, his body relaxes. Tomorrow he will wake to the bell, will rise in the darkness, will pray, will return to the scriptorium, will take up his quill, will continue the work, letter by letter, word by word, line by line. This is his life, this is his purpose, this is what he does, day after day, year after year, until the work is done, until the books are copied, until his hand can no longer hold a quill, until his eyes can no longer see the letters clearly. Then another scribe will take his place. Will sit at his desk, will take up a quill, will continue the work, the endless work, the necessary work, the work that preserves knowledge, that carries the past into the future, that connects one generation to the next through the careful copying of letters on vellum. Let us move forward. Days have passed. The scribe has continued his work. The Gospel of Luke progresses slowly, verse by verse, page by page. Each day is much like the one before. Wake, pray, copy, pray, eat, copy, pray, sleep. The routine does not vary, or varies only slightly. On Sunday there are more prayers, less work. On feast days the same. But most days are working days, days for copying. The scribe's hand has developed a small callus where the quill rests against his middle finger, a thick patch of hard skin. All scribes have this. It is the mark of the profession, the sign of countless hours holding a pen. The gospel is perhaps 2/3 complete now. The scribe can see the end. Not yet, not soon, but eventually, in a few more weeks. Then he will begin something new. Perhaps the Gospel of John, or perhaps something else, whatever the abbot assigns, whatever is needed for the library. The weather has changed slightly. It is colder now. The scriptorium is colder. The scribe wears an extra layer under his robe, wraps a cloth around his shoulders. His fingers are often cold. Cold fingers are stiff, difficult to control. He pauses occasionally to warm his hands, breathes on them, tucks them into his sleeves for a moment, but he continues. The cold is not a reason to stop. It is simply a condition to work within, to adapt to endure. Sometimes the scribe pauses to watch the illuminator. The illuminator sits at the front desk, the best light. He is working on a decorative initial, a large letter I that begins a chapter. The I will be surrounded by elaborate vines, leaves, perhaps a bird, perhaps a small figure of a saint. The illuminator works with tiny brushes, sometimes brushes with only a few hairs. He applies color in small strokes, builds up layers, the blue, then highlights in white, then outlines in black, then the gold leaf. Applied with a technique the scribe does not fully understand, something involving adhesive, careful pressing, burnishing to make it shine. It is beautiful work, painstaking work, work that requires even more patience than the scribe's work, because a single error can ruin hours of effort. A slip of the brush, a drop of the wrong color. The illuminator must have a steady hand, a steady mind, perfect concentration. The scribe is glad he is not an illuminator. He is content with his letters, his simple black letters, line after line, the same shapes repeated endlessly. There is peace in that repetition, comfort in the simplicity. The illuminator's work is art, the scribe's work is craft. Both are necessary, both are valued, but they are different. They require different skills, different temperaments. One morning the scribe discovers an error. He is reviewing yesterday's work, something he does each day before beginning new work, and he sees it. A word is wrong, not completely wrong, but wrong enough. He has written civitas when the exemplar says civitatis, a small difference, a single letter, but it is an error. His heart sinks slightly, not dramatically. This is not a catastrophe, but it is a problem. An error must be corrected, the text must be accurate. That is the entire purpose of the work. He takes up a small knife, a sharp knife. He begins to scrape away the incorrect word, very carefully, very gently. Too much pressure will damage the vellum, will create a hole, will make the surface impossible to write on. He scrapes, slowly. The ink begins to lift away. Flakes of pigment and vellum come away together. He works for perhaps 10 minutes, maybe longer. Finally, the surface is clear, smooth again, ready to receive new ink. He lets it dry. The scraping has roughened the surface slightly. It needs to settle. He works on another section while waiting, another part of the page. When he returns to the corrected spot, he rewrites the word, carefully. Tivitatis, the correct form. It is good. The correction is nearly invisible. Only someone looking very closely would notice anything, would see the slight difference in the surface texture, the faint shadow where the original word was. The scribe makes a note in the margin, a small mark, a notation that this word was corrected, just in case, just so any future reader or copyist will know, will not think it was an error in the exemplar. Then he continues. The error is corrected, the work goes on. The scribe reaches the end of chapter 10. He has been working on this gospel for 2 months now. Chapter 10 is a significant milestone, more than halfway. The end is beginning to feel possible, still distant, but possible. He completes the final verse of chapter 10. Haec autem audiens Isus dixit ad hoc unum tibi dest. Hearing this, Jesus said to him, Yet one thing is lacking to you, the final word, deest. It is lacking. He forms the letters carefully, the final T with its extended crossbar. He sets down his quill, examines the page. The chapter is complete. There is a small satisfaction in this, a completion, a unit of work finished. Not the whole gospel, but a chapter, a discrete section. It is something. Tomorrow he will begin chapter 11, but for now this is enough. He covers the page, protects the ink. The work is good, accurate, clean, consistent. He has done his job well. The weeks pass. Winter deepens. The scriptorium is very cold now. The scribe's breath is visible in the air. His fingers are often numb. He must stop frequently to warm them. The ink sometimes thickens in the cold. He must warm it slightly. Hold the pot near a candle for a moment. Not too close, just enough to make it flow again. The light is different in winter, lower, weaker. The days are shorter. The scribe must work more by candlelight. Candlelight is not ideal. It flickers, creates shadows, makes it harder to see the fine details of letters. But he manages, he adapts. He has worked many winters. He knows how to cope. The gospel progresses. Chapter 11, chapter 12, slowly, steadily. Each day adds a few more verses, a few more lines. The manuscript grows thicker. The stack of completed pages increases. The scribe can see the end now, not tomorrow, not next week, but in perhaps a month, perhaps 6 weeks. The gospel will be finished. Then he will begin something new. The cycle will continue. One book ends, another begins. The work never truly finishes. There are always more books to copy, always more texts to preserve. One morning the sun breaks through clouds in a particular way. The light streams through the high windows of the scriptorium. It illuminates the dust in the air, thousands of tiny particles floating, drifting, catching the light. The scribe pauses, looks up from his work, watches the dust, the light. It is beautiful, purely beautiful. A moment of grace in the midst of routine. He is not supposed to pause like this. Time is valuable, work is important. But sometimes beauty demands attention, demands acknowledgement. He gives it 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Just watching, being present, grateful for this moment, this light, this small gift in the midst of labour. Then he returns to his work, picks up his quill, continues. But he carries that moment with him, that light, that beauty. It sustains him through the rest of the morning, makes the work feel lighter, more meaningful, more connected to something larger than just words on a page. Time moves differently in a monastery. In the outside world, time is marked by events, by harvests and markets, by births and deaths, by festivals and fairs. Time is irregular, unpredictable. In the monastery, time is marked by bells, by the regular rhythm of prayer services, by the seasons of the church calendar. Advent, Christmas, Lent, Easter, ordinary time. The cycle repeats, year after year, predictable, stable, reliable. For the scribe, time is marked by pages, by manuscripts, by the slow accumulation of copied text. He can measure his life by the books he has completed, perhaps 20 books in his lifetime, perhaps more, perhaps less, each one representing months of work, thousands of hours, millions of letters. His youth is marked by the books of his apprenticeship, learning to form letters, learning consistency, learning accuracy. His middle years by the great Gospels, the complex texts, the challenging work. His old age, when it comes, will be marked by simpler texts. Psalters perhaps, shorter books, work that requires less strain on aging eyes, but that is far away, for now he is in his prime. His hand is steady, his eyes are clear, he can work long hours, produce good work. This is his time, his contribution, his life's work unfolding page by page, letter by letter. The final chapter. Chapter 24. The Resurrection. The appearance of Christ to the disciples, the Ascension. The scribe copies these verses with particular care. These are the climax of the gospel, the most important events, the foundation of faith. He works slowly, checking each word, each letter, making sure there are no errors. This section must be perfect as human hands can make it. The verses accumulate, the chapter progresses. He is near the end now, very near. The final verses approach. Et factum est dum benedicere illis, recessit abis, et ferabatur in caelum. And it came to pass, as he blessed them, he departed from them and was carried up into heaven. Almost finished. Just a few more verses. Et ipsi adorantes regressi sunt in Hierusalem cum gaudio magno. And they, adoring, returned to Jerusalem with great joy. Nearly there. The final verse now. Et erant semper in templo, laudantes et benedicentes Deum. Amen. And they were always in the temple, praising and blessing God. Amen. Amen. It is finished. The scribe sets down his quill. The Gospel of Luke is complete. 3 months of work, perhaps more. Countless hours, countless letters, but it is done. He examines the final page. The text is good, clean, accurate, consistent, the same quality throughout. This is good work. This is work that will last, that will be read, that will serve its purpose. He allows himself a moment of satisfaction, not pride. Pride is a sin. But satisfaction. The satisfaction of a job completed, a task fulfilled, a purpose served. Then he begins to organize the pages, to stack them carefully, to prepare them for binding. That is not his job. The binding will be done by another brother, someone skilled in working leather, in sewing sections, in attaching boards and clasps, but the scribe's work is finished. The text is copied, the gospel is preserved. One more copy exists in the world, one more book for the library, one more link in the chain of transmission that stretches back through the centuries. A few days later, the scribe begins a new project. The abbot has assigned him a collection of sermons by St. Augustine. It is a thick volume, many sermons, many pages. This will take months, perhaps longer than the gospel took, but he does not think about that. He thinks about the first sermon, the first page, the first line, the first word. He sits at his desk, the familiar position. He prepares his quill, his ink, his vellum. Everything is ready. He begins. The first letter, a large S, the beginning of sermon. He forms the S carefully, sets the tone for the work ahead, sets the standard, then the next letter, then the next. The work continues, word by word, letter by letter, page by page. This is his life. This is what he does, and he will continue to do it. Tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, for as long as his hand can hold a quill, for as long as his eyes can see letters, for as long as he has strength to sit and work. Because this work matters. Not for his own sake, he will be forgotten, but for the sake of the knowledge, the texts, the words that must be preserved, that must be multiplied, that must be passed on to future generations. He is just one scribe, in one monastery, in one corner of Europe, but he is part of something larger, part of a vast network of scriptoriums, of copyists, of monks dedicating their lives to this work. Together they are preserving civilization, preserving learning, preserving the accumulated wisdom of centuries, letter by letter, page by page, book by book. Let us pull back now. Let us see the larger picture. The scribe is just one man, living just one life. But his work is part of a process that spans centuries. The text he is copying was copied from another text, which was copied from another, which was copied from another, going back through the years, through the centuries, back to the original, to the first writing, to the moment when someone first put stylus to wax, or quill to papyrus, or whatever medium was used in that ancient time. And the text he is creating will be copied by others, in future years, in future centuries. It will be copied and copied and copied, each copy slightly different, small variations accumulating, errors creeping in, corrections being made, the text evolving slowly, very slowly, but surviving, persisting, carrying forward through time, until eventually, centuries in the future, the printing press will make this work obsolete. Books will be multiplied by machine, not by hand. The age of scribes will end. But for now, in this moment, in this century, the work continues. Scribes sit at their desks in monasteries across Europe, in cold rooms and warm rooms, in large scriptoriums and small ones, in famous monasteries and obscure ones, all doing the same work, all serving the same purpose, all part of the same great enterprise, the preservation of knowledge, the transmission of learning, the quiet, patient, essential work that keeps civilization alive. Letter by letter, word by word, day by day, year by year, century by century, the work continues. The quills scratch against the vellum, the ink flows, the letters form, the pages accumulate, the books grow, the libraries expand, knowledge is preserved, knowledge is multiplied, knowledge is passed forward, and somewhere in all of this, in this vast enterprise spanning centuries and continents, there is one scribe, sitting at one desk, on one day, holding one quill, forming one letter, just one letter, among millions and millions of letters. But each one matters, each one is necessary. Without that single letter, the word is incomplete. Without that word, the sentence is broken. Without that sentence, the text is damaged. Without that text, knowledge is lost. So each letter matters. Each stroke of the quill matters. Each moment of concentration matters. Each day of work matters. This is the life of a medieval scribe. This is the work, this is the gift, this is the quiet dedication that preserved the learning of the ancient world, that transmitted it through the dark centuries, that made possible the rebirth of learning that was to come, all because of men like our scribe, men whose names we do not know, who lived quiet lives, who did patient work, who asked for nothing in return except the satisfaction of a job well done, and the knowledge that their work mattered, that it served a purpose, that it made a difference, letter by letter, word by word, page by page. The scratch of the quill continues, the work goes on, and somewhere in all of this, there is peace, there is purpose, there is the slow, steady rhythm of meaningful labor, and that is enough, more than enough, it is everything. May you rest well, having journeyed through the quiet life of a medieval scribe. May your sleep be as peaceful as the scriptorium in early morning. May your rest be as complete as a finished manuscript. May you wake refreshed, like the scribe beginning a new day's work, ready to form new letters, new words, new meaning in your own life. Sleep well.